Yes, it was a diversity hire.
I knew it.
And I believe it was a hire for the sake of change.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, were only there for 9 months because the church went through a massive global scandal, and we didn't get a chance to really do what we came there to do. But I will tell you this: before we left, we ended up having to resign. Before we not because we were on the inside. We can talk a little bit about this if you want.
I want to know about this thing, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, no, I'll close this story with
Yes.
this. We didn't get a chance to do what we wanted to do, but had things continued the way that they were going, there was so much change being created from the inside out. We were talking about doing a world tour around King philosophy to every Hillsong church in the world. We were talking, they had just formed a global diversity committee that had every race known to man that was already a part of the Hillsong world, but individuals were being elevated. And I think, it's interesting because, and then we're going to get to this scandal, sometimes when you're outside of the country, the American version of racism is a little different than racism in some parts of the world. They don't have the same hangups because of slavery in America. But we can come back to that later. Anyway, we ended up having to leave, so on and so forth.
That down.
Okay, and we can break that down too. It was a very interesting phenomenon.
Okay, this controversy with Hillsong, high level.
Yeah.
What was it about? And what happened after? Like, how did it conclude? How did it end?
Yeah. This is probably going to be posted, so I'll just say, again, off top, love Hillsong.
Okay.
And the church is still continuing today. I think it's probably half of what it was. I don't know the exact numbers, but it is still continuing, and I think they're being very diligent in this season to be quiet and to build quietly a healthy church. From my understanding, the controversy started out of Hillsong, New York. So Hillsong, New York was led by an individual by the name of Carl Lentz. He had a ton of celebrities attending his church as well. Carl Lentz at the time, phenomenal preacher. Brian Houston's son planted Hillsong, New York with Carl Lentz. Again, at the time, Hillsong United, one of the highest selling Christian groups of really all time. Joe Houston, Brian Houston's son, was one of the faces of Hillsong United. So you have Hillsong coming to America with these massive songs, partnering with a phenomenal preacher in Carl Lentz, who's this, trendy and so on and so forth. And they explode out of New York. 10,000 members at the PlayStation Theater, I think it was PlayStation Theater, in Times Square. It's in Times Square, isn't it? And so Kevin Durant was attending the church. Justin Bieber would frequent at the church. So many different celebrities. And it was a real, what individuals would call a real move of God, a revival kind of taking place in that city. And Carl really, he rose to a high amount of fame, a heavy amount of fame. I think he has maybe 500,000 followers on Instagram now, I'm not sure. But at the time, just on fire. Many of us in America were patterning how he was doing church. Like, we were patterning how we were doing church after how he was doing. We just felt like he was, on the cutting edge. Yeah. He goes through a few things within the COVID season that has an affair. And that's public.
Okay.
A lot of the documentaries are about that. And that affair kind of goes public. And because of his profile, it explodes all over the media. And because it was out of New York, you've got all of these massive media houses, many of them attending the church. So it's not only a pastor having an affair, it's my pastor has had an affair, and I happen to be at Good Morning America, or I happen to be at the New York Post, or I happen to be at Vanity Fair. So it just exploded. That then turned into a full-on media storm into every Hillsong church around the world. And so anything, and I want you to think about it like Nike. Here's how I explain it. Nike, one of the most well-known brands in the world. They got stores all over the place. And I want you to imagine that you go behind the books into the HR department of every store that Nike has ever had and look up any of the issues that are, right? And then you put them on the news. if you do that with any massive organization, it's going to be a lot of issues because that's just what happens when you scale. Coca-Cola's putting out fires all the time right now. They're just not being reported on. But if somebody decided, hey, I want to take Coke down, and they just start pulling up and they start, hey, you got fired from Coke 10 years ago. What's your and that's what happened with Hillsong. And so it's more money, more problems. It's heavy as the head that wears the crown. And so they would just, I think, position perfectly to be in the media and it to be one of the biggest, scandals in Christianity.
Why did you leave?
I left, and this is my honest reason. I left. I love the church, and I was there only for a year and a half, and I went there because of what I had seen and what I had experienced with the music and what it had done for me since age 16. At the time, I was I was in my 30s. And I loved it. I loved the brotherhood. They went, almost 20 to 30 years of high success within Christianity. Obviously, they're going to have some issues and some problems. Every organization does. I'm not defending anything because I wasn't there. But what I would say is you don't amass a certain amount of success without being good at something and without hopefully making a difference in some way. So many people got saved within the ministry globally. So I loved it. And I loved it when I was there. I was treated really well. They loved me. They gave me all time. And let me just pause and say this because Dr. Jamal Bryant came on my podcast.
Shout out Jamal.
Yes.
Dr. Jamal Bryant.
And he said to me, he's got to, and he's coming.
Is
he coming?
Yeah.
Has he been invited?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
They gave us a date of December, January, and then things are blowing up. So we're waiting.
He's coming. I'm just going to speak. He wants to come.
I used to go to the gym with him. You know me. We used to go at 5 o'clock in the morning. So.
Yes. Yeah. But he said something to me, and I'm getting to why I left. He said something to me on my podcast. He said the black church owes you an apology. And I was just like, I almost broke down. He said, it's a shame that you had to go to the white church to be supported at this level. He said, we owe you an apology. And I'm not going to speak into the apology. I love the black church. I'm with Dr. A.R. Bernard now. It's a predominantly African-American church. I love the black church. I came out of the black church. I'm black. Yeah. I got ordained in the black, But his point was, you came from us, but we didn't get behind you. And he's to that level.
Yeah.
And this is where I have to give Hillsong credit because they did come in and go, hey, we see what you're trying to do. Here's $500,000. Go figure it out to plant this ministry. So again, I was treated well. I loved it, and I was really excited about what we were doing. And I felt like from the inside, and again, this is just my truth. It's nobody else's truth. From the inside, looking out, everything that came out on the media, they addressed behind the scenes. We knew about it before it came out. They showed us the papers of here's what we did. Here was our due diligence around this situation when it happened 20 years ago, when it happened 10 years ago. This is right around Me Too and all. So everything is just, it got to a point for us where the media storm became so massive that we lost trust with our parishioners. And it was guilty by association. And I'll just tell you a story. I went to the airport. I was in the airport, I think the day after we had, almost every other week at one point, we were announcing another thing in the media because we had to address it. Because the New York Post had posted about it or something. And so for me, I went to the airport. I remember after a day of announcing something else, and I ran into one of our biggest donors, just in the airport randomly. You know how you run into people. Yeah. And he walks up to me. He says, hey, I think you got to make a decision because I'm out. And I love you, but I think, and he was a really high-powered business owner. He was like, I think if you don't make a shift, you're going to lose the church. Because people were dropping like flies. We saw giving going down. So so for me, it was a simple decision. We just couldn't build a church. It was so new. We were 9 months in as a church plant, essentially a small business. It would be like opening a new, again, go back to Nike, a new Nike store in a region. And then Nike goes through this massive scandal. Remember Balenciaga went through everything they kind of went through. You open a new, I remember I was in Vegas when Balenciaga was going through it. And I walked in Balenciaga and then realized it was a ghost town. Yeah. I said, where's everybody at? They were like, you
like
don't
Target.
know. Right. It's like Target. I can't speak on Target. That's not my issue.
It's not your ministry.
It's not my ministry. But it is Dr. Jamal's, and that's what he needs to come and talk about. But yeah, it was like that. It's like you you imagine opening a Balenciaga store during that season, and that's what happened to us. So that was it. I mean, it was for no other reason than we just couldn't. If I could have kept the ministry going, I would have stayed. Yeah, I think so.
It was just too much controversy. Hey guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and comment. You never know what I might be in the comments. And also, thank you guys for continuing to watch.
Hey, this is Pastor Sam Collier, and I am here with Smitty and D, and you got to listen to the episode. You got to watch it. You got to download it. You got to share it with your friends. We had a real conversation about real issues and about a real faith. Make sure you check it out.